I guess before I start, I want to say that not only is this my testimony, but it's also a testimony of an account of what Jesus did in my life and how he delivered me from my past. My name is Matthew Lawrence. I'm 22. I'm from Alabama. From a very young age, I guess homosexuality was very present in my life and how it was introduced to me through older cousins and family members. Um, I remember we'd always go and have like bonfires and like little parties at my family's house, and I would always spend the night. And my cousin, he would teach me things, show me things, and he would like I guess like molest me in a way. And from that point on, I guess that's a form of brainwash. And so as I'm getting older, I'm thinking, this is how I'm supposed to think, this is how I'm supposed to act, this is how I'm supposed to love. I never really looked at women in like a lustful way because I don't know, for some reason I just showed them like amount of respect. So I never really had a good relationship like loving wise with women. I did have like girlfriends growing up, but like never really meant anything. Um I have two older sisters, so I guess that's where the respect and love comes from. So about 6th grade is when I started going to my old church. I was getting involved. I really didn't know who Jesus was. I just kind of knew of the religion, and I just did everything that the religion did. I went on these church conferences, the discipleship training weekends. We'd always go to Gatlinburg for it was called Winter Blast. It was like a weekend retreat. You could always feel the presence of God, but you could never really point it out if you're not a believer, because like if you're still walking by the flesh, you're still blinded by a veil. Um, let's say 8th grade is when I kinda was at this church retreat, and there was this guy. His family was like a big supporter of the church. They funded everything. They did all these things, and he was like, "So, I heard you share your testimony earlier with the whole group." And he's like, "I heard now you're gay." He was like, "Let's do some things." And I was like, I don't think so." But so he got mad and went back and pretty much told everybody at the school that I was gay. So like that's where the rumors really started and were brought up. So ninth grade, um, about ninth grade is when I started getting more heavy into, I guess, homosexuality, but I really wasn't coming out as gay or nothing because like the idea of being gay was just gross to me. But from a young age, pleasing men's all I knew. So 10th grade is when I had something really traumatic happen in my life. So there was this guy, he wanted to fool around, but I was like, no. And I was immature back in the day, and I told all my friends like what had happened and stuff. So as a result of that, it was like the weekend of Thanksgiving, or we just come back from the break. It's always one of those. I don't remember. But I had woke up that morning, I was eating breakfast, and I was logged out of my Snapchat. I had no idea how that happened, so I just logged back in, and it let me logged in, so I just blew it off and didn't think anything about it. So about lunchtime, I checked my phone at school because we're allowed to get on it. I was logged out of Snapchat again, but this time it wouldn't let me log back in. And then I got on Instagram. I was logged out, and so I'm kind of freaking out. I'm going to my fellow classmates. I'm like, "Hey, help me! Like, y'all are more, I guess, advanced in this type of technology than I am. I just got this." And so as the day goes on, like 3:15 is when school let out. So about 3 o'clock, um, the guy that had hacked my stuff was texting people acting like me. I guess he was posting pictures of me. He was posting quotes and stuff. I guess that was stuff that I would usually post. I guess assuring people that it was me and it wasn't. And I had made a account to text the account that was mine, and they said, you did our friend wrong, so we're going to prove you're wrong and prove you're gay, and you're just that's all an act. You're not this Christian, you're not nothing, you're just this gay queer, all this. And I was like, okay, true. So as the day goes on and I go home, they're just they won't give me my stuff back, they won't have no contact with me, but they'll be talking to everybody else as if they were me. And so I think my mom and them took me to see Jurassic World because that's when it first came out, so I just had my mind off of it, and, the next morning, it was really bad. I'd woken up, my mom was like, "Hey, I saw you got your account and stuff back." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And the person was like, I guess they found videos of me, and they had, like, another phone recording it and, like, making it seem like it was me, and I was like, "Yeah, that's not me." And my aunt had rushed over because the person who had hacked my social media, you can call on Snapchat, and they were like calling her, calling her, calling her. And it was like 2 a.m. She said she rushed over and everybody was asleep. So she went back home. So she came back the next day to talk to us about it. And I was like, yeah, something's going on because all my stuff's hacked and I can't get none of my information. And at this time, my parents really didn't know about my lifestyle that I was living, but, they're about to find out soon. So, they got everything together and they sent, like, this mass file of, like, everything that I've ever done. Like, they went through all my friends, they went through all my messages, they went through my Facebook, they got my email stuff, and so they sent it all to my parents. It was like, "This is what your son's done, and, like, we found this offensive, so if he comes back to the school, we're gonna shoot him. We're gonna take it to the police, get him arrested and stuff," and, like, I don't know how old I was. Well, 10th grade. It's probably about 15, 16. So like at this time, I'm really not knowing like how to deal with it. So I'm just like really angry, really upset, crying all the time. It was like a big moment of isolation for me because I had got my phone taken away because I mean, obviously of all this stuff going on, my parents didn't know about it. What I really took from this was that like nothing that you do is gonna hide in the dark forever. Like it's gonna come to light at some point, no matter how young or old you are. Which I now looking back at it, I take it as a sign that God was showing me, like, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. Just because you were brainwashed and meshed into this type of lifestyle, this isn't who defines you. I define you is what he's telling me. Um, so as the day goes on, we're finding out that it wasn't just one person; it was multiple people. It was like a group of people. It was like a more of a hatred thing towards me. They were all in it together to bring me down. And we found out it was like one of my bestest friends and all this. So like I'm standing in the living room. My mom's like, "Go take the trash to the road." And I was like, "Okay." But I start breaking down crying, and then her and my dad just come and hug me. And that was a really good, heartfelt moment to me. Um, Even though from that moment, I knew they were angry at me, but they still loved me, and that was, like, the biggest thing was I know they love me. And so my youngest, but she's older than me, sister, Caitlin, she was able to talk to the people, persuade them to give me back my social media and all the accounts that had been hacked, and she did it in a way, and they just gave it all back. And the password, it was really crazy because it had both of my cousins' names in it, which didn't make no sense to me at all. So, like, we had got in contact with the FBI, police, and they all couldn't help us. So, if they couldn't help us, it just had to be, something from God to just really throw it out there for me. So after that, I get pulled from the school I was going to. I tried online school for a little bit. It didn't work out. I really started hanging out with my cousin. She's a girl. I started hanging out with her for a little bit, and she introduced me to my future best friend. His name's Drake. And we started hanging out. We all started talking. He was gay too. So like, even though like all this happened, I guess I'll still do it, living the lifestyle. Um, so he really had the same background as me, so we kind of clicked on those things, and we started becoming really good friends and hanging out every day, talking. And I started this private school, it's a Christian private school, and as I'm going there, I'm still friends with them, blah blah blah. Um, and toward graduation, there was this guy that came to the school. He was just a sin and a half. He was just a lustful temptation, and we were just friends at first. So he started hanging out with me and Drake, and things got intense, started dating or whatnot, and it was really, really draining mentally and emotionally for me. It was really hitting me down on my faith. It like stripped me of everything because I was never enough for this person. I had lost almost 100 pounds for this person. I'd changed how I looked in every way so I could please them because I thought that what I did was love, but that wasn't love. I didn't know that at the time. So, like, looking back at it, like, that whole relationship was what's it called? like, I guess, some test or example of how, that's the worldly love, and I didn't know Jesus love yet. So as this is coming to an end, me and him break off because it was just no good, and I found myself break down crying in my room about it. So my friend Drake, he invited me over to his house. So we was all over there. There was making margarita shots or tequila shots, and I was just smoking, doing whatever, chilling on the couch. And this person really struggled with bipolarness and what's it called? Like transgender, like they thought there was a transgender in a way. Like they weren't like transitioning, but they wore the wigs. They did everything like after night, call them a different name. So they were drinking, the night's going on, and usually when people are drinking, they'll start getting really rowdy. And you can tell when they get rowdy, like that's why I kind of don't like being around people who's drink because they'll get rowdy, angry, fussy, you can just tell when they've had enough. And this whole week he was trying to catch this rat in his house, and he accidentally hit a mousetrap and it popped and it made him angry. So he called his Nini, which is his Nana. He's called her Nini. He called her and he was like, "How do I fix this? How do I fix this?" And she was like, "I don't know. You fix it yourself." So that made him really angry. And when he tried to fix it, it didn't work. So he threw it. When he threw it, his glasses fell off his face. So he threw his fist between this glass china cabinet, and his hand was cut up. He was bleeding everywhere, and he just fell to the ground crying. And I was sitting there like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I'm just chilling. Like this has all just happened out of nowhere. And he was a CNA nurse, and so was the other friend that was there. So they were taking care of his wound, washing it off, and he was just screaming, cussing, screaming and cussing. And my other best friend, Kate, she was working a blue collar job. So she was always out of state, but that's where she stayed. So she was on her way back. And I had called her and was like, "Hey, you can't come back here. Stuff's going on." She was like, "Well, I don't have nowhere else to go. Like, this is where I'm living." So she told us to go back because we had left to go drive up the road to where I worked because it wasn't far. We gathered ourselves and went back. And by the time we got back, his Nini was there with her boyfriend. And there was like this glass protective door on houses. You can just open the front door and enjoy the sunshine or whatever. He had done broke through it and he was ripping it off the hinges. And like I just remember just standing there like something had to be going on and like him like supernaturally strengthening like that. So we're standing there and they're like, "We don't need to turn up the house like this." And he's like, "I don't need y'all's effing help. Y'all get out of here. I'll have somebody else take me to the hospital." He's just like having the worst breakdown of his life. So they leave and he's like, "Can you take me to the hospital?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So at this point, I'm like not really wanting to go. It's like really stirring up in me like this is not good. So I was ready to leave. But I knew my best friend was on the way. So I was waiting and waiting, and she finally pulled up. So she went with us. And like before we went, I hugged her. I was crying, and she was like, "What's going on?" And we took her inside. It was like some type of murder scene, like broken glass everywhere, blood smeared everywhere. Like I just really didn't know how to like handle it all at the time. So we're headed to the hospital. We get there. Our other friend meets us there. So it's one, two, three, about five of us in total. It was me, my friend Kate, and our friend Desmond in the back, and it was our friend Wesley and Drake in the other car. And we're at the hospital. He's getting things checked up, cleaned up. And we're just sitting there, and it's about 1 o'clock, and I haven't eaten. So my friends went and got food, and when they came back, I was like, "I'm gonna go eat, but I'm gonna send somebody else in the room." He's like, "All right, that's fine." So I'm going to eat in the car. I drive to my work since it's not that far, and I use the bathroom. And on my way back, I get this call from him, and he's like, "Where the f are you at?" Like he's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's like, "Where the f are you at?" And I'm like, "I'm on the way back." I was like, "I just had to use the restroom," and you could hear him. He was like running throughout the hospital. He's like, "This place is so mother effing stupid, this and that, cussing, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, okay, like we're on the way back." So we're driving and we get off the exit ramp. And the only way to get back was to get back on the interstate. So we're going and we see our friend's car parked on the exit ramp with the flashers on. So we're like, "Is that them?" So we pull into the gas station, turn back down and go back down. But when we come back down, they done drove up onto the interstate a little bit, just a little bit of ways, and pulled over. And so we pulled up behind them. and we parked, and I should have parked a little bit more because if I would open my door, a car driving by would have knocked it off. So I had my flashers on, my brights on, making every type of notion that we're here. And all you can really see is they're parked, but his car was off. And the driver's side light was on. And he was just sitting there crying, and he was hitting his head up against the passenger window. The car was shaking. He was going insane. And I was like, what in the world? And my friend that was driving leans over and gives him a hug. I don't know if it was the compassion or if it's the hug or if he just didn't want to be touched, but that made him get up, get out of the car. He looked at me and my friend in the eyes, which I have no idea because the brights were on and everything. And I have tinted windows. So he looks at us, he starts looking at the traffic. He starts chasing the cars like some dog, and I'm like, "What in the world?" So like, I'm rolling my window down. I'm like calling his name, and the traffic has like a little bit of break in it. But if you look down, you can see like nothing but 18 wheelers coming, and they're all like trucking it too. And he's just standing in the middle, and we're sitting there screaming his name, like, "Get out of the road!" And my friend Kate, she gets out the car and she has a similar situation to where she can relate to him. So she was just start talking about that situation, like screaming at him. And that kind of made him break down. So he breaks down in the middle of the interstate. And my friend Desmond runs out and grabs him and pulls him back in. And like before he pulled him in, like they almost got hit. It was so crazy. Like I was sitting there and like it was like the first time and the longest time I was talking to God because I was sitting there. I was like, Lord, prepare me to watch my friend that I call one of my best friends get smeared across the interstate by one of these 18 wheelers because they're out of their mind. And like I was sitting there preparing myself. And once it was all said and done, they had him in the back seat. He was crying, screaming. I'm sitting there shaking. Like I've never shook in my life. But I could feel like this was pure fear that I was feeling. And it was like an unshakable sensation or something. So we're driving and all his stuff was in our other friend's car. So once he couldn't find something, he was threatening to jump out of the car again. It was like one of those situations where you was just hoping it would end, but it never ended. So we pulled over at the exit, and he's in my other friend's car looking, and I'm sitting there trying to text him like, call 911, get him to meet us at the house. We need him. Like he needs to get checked. Like he's not right. Something has entered him. At this point, I believe that he was taken over by some type of spirit or demon. Like, in all my honest opinion. And I couldn't text. I was shaking so badly that I was just texting. If I would have sent it, it would have read like "blah blue 911 blah blue," and he wouldn't know what I said. So I was just like, whatever, whatever. So we drove back to his house, and he couldn't find his glasses. He couldn't find his phone, and the dog was barking. So he's starting to kill the dog, and I was like, oh my lord. I was like, all right, I gotta go. So I went home. On the way home, I was just crying, 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 and I kind of separated myself from the situation. And the next day, they didn't go to he was wanting to go to his mom's house because that was kind of like his comfort. That's where he found his peace and I guess restoration. But they ended up coming back to pack his bags. So I went over there and me and my friends had helped cleaned up his house. We swept up all the glass. We got up all the blood. I cut some curtains up, put it over where he smashed a hole through the glass to where it wouldn't be a reminder of anything. It made it look like a home again. Um, and then after that, I haven't seen him in a couple of months. In like a couple weeks. So let's flash back to a couple weeks after the incident happened. I'm with my friend because I told her what happened and she wanted me to come over and she wanted to have like a little chill night. We were just drinking some wine. We are just talking about the situation. I was just telling her what's going on. And I was texting my friend Kate about it. Usually she's like my rock. She's the person I go to for everything. We talk about everything. Where I go, we talk about religion. We talk about what we do. We talk about our family and relationships and stuff. And we haven't had alone time to talk about this ever since. Um, so I'm at my friend's house and she was thinking I'm mad. She was thinking I was mad at her. She was thinking I was mad at Drake, at all these people. And I was like, I'm not mad at you. I was like, I just don't want to be around that. I was like, it's not okay. I was like, he's mentally not okay. And I was like, if it's you think it's okay to sit there and experience that, if because we almost experienced somebody getting ran over on the interstate, like we would have had to like live with that for the rest of our lives. Like I was thinking of it as a selfish standpoint. And but like, looking back at it now, like I should have been more, I guess, concerning and caring for a friend, but also he should have been more self-aware of what he was doing. But so I sent her this text and she was like, "Oh, that was ugly, Matthew. That was effed up, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, I knew this wasn't Kate because she would have so agreed with me. But since I wasn't texting my other friend, he had sat next to her on the couch and saw that I was texting her and I sent this long paragraph. So he saw that end of the world for him. So it was like high school all over again. He took pictures of the messages and he started posting it on Facebook. He tagged all my family, all my friends, and he said, so this is how he wants to feel about my episode. Then he gave a little backstory about everything. And then he was like, well, y'all think Matthew's been at his friend's house doing this and this. He's really been sleeping with said name. He's been really doing this to this. He's a gay mother, blah, 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 blah. He lost weight for him, like really just exposing my life again. I was like, what is up with me not having any secrets these days? So at this point, I was like, okay, cool. So I go home and my family was like really just caring because I guess they could sense that it was a repeat of what happened in high school. So it really wasn't like affecting me as much as it did. But I was just kind of bummed that it happened that way. Like maybe like if the relationship would have flourished or something, I would have came out to him, but it didn't. It ended in bad terms. So I just kind of separated myself from that. So after that, I got heavy into smoking weed again. I was smoking like a blunt. I was driving, smoking a blunt, park, roll a blunt. I was heavy in the smoking. And then I started dabbling with shrooms. I would take shrooms and I started to have bad trips from 'em, so I kind of stopped doing the shrooms. I mean, I smoke nicotine. I think every young adult teenager struggles with that these days. But after a while, I kind of felt this pulling on me. Like even through the worldly music, I would hear messages of like saying like this is coming to an end, something better's coming. What you're going through now is not going to last long. And I'm like, dang, am I listening to Christian music or Rihanna? So I had to like do a reality check. And so I was kind of laying in my bed one night. I was sitting there and I was watching TikToks and this right when this movie called Sound of Freedom came out. I was watching this trailer for it and then it was the part where this little girl, she gets put in the shipping container and it just kind of broke me down cuz I have nieces and nephews I care about so much. And I was sitting there, I was breaking down. I was like, yeah, this is not who I'm called to be. Like I knew that was Jesus knocking at my heart again. Even though I was hurt by the church and I left the church for all these reasons, I knew that it wasn't God that hurt me. It was the people in the church. So I had to come to the realization that this wasn't who I was. I'm not defined by what the world calls me. I'm defined by what Jesus calls me to be. So I broke down. I'm praying. I'm like, God, I don't want to live this lifestyle anymore. I was like, I want to give up everything and live for you freely. I don't want to. I don't care about what people say, what people think. And from that moment forward, I had posted that I was changing my life and that I was living for God. And literally moments after, I had lost every single one of my friends because they think I'm some Jesus freak. And that was like the best confirmation anybody can have is like losing all your friends. Like, yeah, like so what? You're lonely, but like I got the creator by my side, so I'm really not alone. So from that moment forward, I stopped smoking weed. I got baptized in my backyard in my pool because like I felt like it needed to happen. Like I was baptized when I was younger, but this time it felt like meaningful. So I got baptized July 15th, 2023 in my backyard by my father in the pool. And I stopped smoking weed. Back in September, I stopped vaping. Um Ever since then, I've really been giving up everything that I was called to be by the world, and I've been living for what I call to be by God. So, ever since then, like, yes, I think not David, Paul says we're all gonna have a thorn on our side that we struggle with. So obviously, since I was exposed to homosexuality from such a young age, I'm always gonna have struggle with lust and looking at guys in ways I'm not supposed to, but also I'm learning to know what true love is and maybe looking at them in a different way, like loving them instead of like wanting, So that's something that I'm still overcoming, but I know nothing's too impossible for God. So that's how I'm living now. And actually, I'm in Colorado, about to head out to South Dakota to for 6 months to really preach the word of God. So if that's a testimony, anything, this time last year I was smoking weed, living it up, partying, and then a completely year later, I gave up my life for God, really, and just truly living on the road for Him. So that's the best thing that could ever happen.
There's one piece of advice that you could give to a young man in your situation back then that's struggling, giving his life to the Lord, and just wants to surrender. What would you say to him?
Um, I'd say that truly, once there's a breaking point to the whole lustful thing because you think it's love, but truly, I didn't know love until I met Jesus. There's a difference between lust and love. There's such a strong hold on lust that make you think it's love, but if you actually take a step back and look, there's nothing loving coming from that. There's only like a pit that's just endless, that's never going to get filled. But whenever you accept Jesus to your heart and ask him to be your Lord and Savior, that's when that pit gets filled and you'll never really have to look for that type of attention seeking or anything from a like your standpoint ever again.